So this is how I got better at drawing trees. And it's not just drawing from vacuum. I actually take a reference image from the internet and I will actually just trace over it. And I'll look at examples of where other people have drawn trees in their own style. And I will try my best to find ones that I like and just copy it. So what I like to do is start with the outline of the tree, as you can see here. And the idea is really just to create a layer and we'll build it up layer by layer, given that we are drawing in Procreate and we're taking advantage of the layer controls. And this is going to allow us to edit later as we wish. So if we've overdrawn something, we can definitely take it out or add to it. And this is one of the best things about drawing digitally is the flexibility for editing. So as you can see here, what I'm essentially doing right now is just getting the border, the outline of the tree done before I move into the inside. And this is just how I do it. You're welcome to find your own workflow or strategy and style. And the person that I learned this from is actually another architecture illustrator. And he has this technique where the edges of the trees are, when you're drawing, they don't all have to be connected. So it's these kind of open-ended foliage that I think that works really well with a representation for the tree. And this technique will apply, I think, to most trees out there. So this tree that I found on a website called Mr. Cutout, essentially what I did was just to do a screen grab of the tree and I paste it into this drawing board. So when you're done with the outline, this is where you can start to move on the inside and you're slowly building up the foliage in the midground of things. So what's really great about using a reference is before you get really good, you want to make sure that you're drawing things accurately and you're not just making it up in your head. And I think that's a mistake that I made in my own mind is I'll just look at someone else's drawing and I'll know how to draw this just by trying to imitate the style. But what I found later was it's more effective when you have something to reference and copy from. So when you're getting started and we are trying to learn how to draw vegetations, this is just an excellent way to get started, in my opinion. And you might differ, but this is how I got started, and this is what worked for me. So take my advice with a grain of salt. So after we're getting to a point where there's slowly we're building the foliage in the middle, from the outside, we're going to let's go ahead and create another layer. And on this layer, we're gonna slowly add in the branches and the tree lines and the trunk. If you're wondering what brush I'm using to for this demonstration, this is all going to be linked in the description below. And this brush set is something that I created a long time myself, and it's a really good brush to imitate the feel and the quality and the look of pen and ink or the felt pens out there for architects. So you're welcome to grab it in the description. It is all free for you to use in your own work. So now I am moving down to the tree lines and the trunk. You'll see that I like to draw in a way where the lines are not super rigid or continuous. I like to break my lines apart. And I think this is probably a style that I've just developed by looking at other people's drawing. So this is a style that you're welcome to learn and copy from, but it is certainly a style that I think that works for me. And over the years, this is something that I kept. So at this point, we are almost done with this initial pass, and you can quickly see how fast this was to create a somewhat realistic representation of a tree of this size. And this is the kind of trees that I would use in most of my freehand illustration and representation. And of course, there's probably more that we can add on to this. But essentially, we are about done, and you can see that this was less than about 5 minutes of work to get to this point. Now, if we turn off this layer, um, you're certainly welcome to add to this, such as in the middle, just to adding a little bit more branches like this. But we have a what I think is a fairly good looking tree. And sometimes if you want to try giving this a little bit more depth, what I would recommend is create another layer. And before we add anything to this, think about what makes the tree have a little bit of depth. And it's the shadow, it's the volume of the trees. So naturally, where the trees are going to have a darker glow, or a darker part of the tree is going to be the middle of the tree and the bottom of the tree. And depending on how light is hitting the tree is really going to have shadow either on the left or the top or the right, or just somewhere where there's going to be shade. So what I'm doing here right now is just to add in some of that shade inside the trees, and that's the place where the sun is going to hit the least amount in the tree line. So right about there, I am probably going to stop the tutorial right here, as this is a level that I'm generally happy with in a drawing. So hopefully this is useful, and you can use this technique in your own work.